trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Mix it up and mush it down. Stir the potion where the shins around. Cackle, cackle, raise your hackles. Moosh the mortar, scrape and stackle. Tease and titter, hoot and hop. Take care when that karmic anvil drops. Grab the ladle, dip it up in a vessel cup. Don't be scared, drink it all. We will catch you when you fall. Muddle, muddle, jump the puddle, merry meet, but mind the muggle. Hoop-de-doo and hide-de-ho, just don't walk where the leathered wingies go. Twinkle, twinkle, there's a crinkle that no hot iron can unwrinkle. Once you start to stir this brew, it could take a lifetime till you're through. Pass the ammo, dig your hole in a chalice palace. Greedy glutton, gulp it down, lick the droplets from your frown. Hocus pocus, where's the locust? Don't mind when your eyes unfocus. Bibbidi-bobbidi-boo, join us in a little tea for two. Have a heaping helping of our stew. Yes, my dearie, it's a trifle blue.
And that was Three Weird Sisters with Blue Spell from their album Third Time's the Charm. And welcome to Pagan FM. We're coming to you from South Jersey, the home of the Jersey Devil, and just outside Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. This week's been a bit difficult. As a veteran, I don't like seeing this country at war, whether the person sending our service members to fight calls it a war or not. So this has been preoccupying my mind quite a bit. I've also been thinking about and working on the show quite a bit. A good deal behind the scenes. Work has just been happening on the show. You'll hear about that momentarily. But the show has been found by AI. A while back, I looked it up and AI reported that the show was defunct, that it had ended some years back. Well, when I asked AI, what is Pagan FM? It now gets at least a good bit of it correct. It does show that it is rebooted, and it does seem to think I'm doing rituals every week. I don't quite understand that, but maybe I'll give it something to think about next week. It also tends to think that every show I'm starting off with some instrumental music. I don't think I've done that yet. That's okay too. No, I did. I might have done one. That's okay. I've also been thinking of my time here in the Philly area in South Jersey. When I moved to this area in 2021, I knew that my family heritage was from Brittany, or at least part of it was from Brittany. But what I didn't know was how closely Brittany and Wales were related, culturally, linguistically. What I did notice when I got here, though, was the number of Welsh place names in the area: Bala Cynwyd, Bryn Mawr, Belmar, Berwyn, Gwynedd, Marion, Bangor, and so many more. Townships, neighborhoods, street names, some here in New Jersey, but many, many more near Philadelphia. Well, apparently in the 1600s, when Quakers were settling in the area, many of them came from Wales, and they honored their heritage through the naming of these places. Like Wales, Brittany has its own share of standing stones, such as the Karnak stones dating back to around 4500 BC and containing some 3,000 stones. It's one of the oldest and most vast sites of its kind in Europe. There's also Maraquier, Garvins, and others. Though the languages have changed a bit between Wales and Brittany, there's a common linguistic and cultural heritage. So it seems that in moving here, I've actually come a bit closer to my own heritage. I've also been giving a bit more thought to the idea of taking some sort of a religious vow as a priestess, a dedication to the goddess and to ministry. And I'm recognizing that I'll be retiring from my workaday job within the next few years. And I don't wish to be idle, and teaching seems to be something I've been called to do. With quite a few years of Pagan FM behind me, I did the show for 10 years before I got here. I've also taught guitar, ham radio courses, and more. And that seems to have been a perpetual calling in my life. And as I was walking a bit over a week ago, it struck me very, very deeply. I really can't explain how much my mind went somewhere else when I was walking, that some sort of vow to the goddess, a goddess, possibly Caradwen, might be in order. And I've been considering this over the past week a bit more deeply than I had in the past, even more so than when I was part of a coven. And so I think that in next week's show that there may be some ritual aspect where some sort of vow might be taking place. I'm still considering it, and you, my listeners, are the reason for this program, so you'll be a part of it. Tonight, I've got a bit going on. I want to talk about how we can possibly, as pagans, help Christians who've had their faith hijacked for nationalistic purposes. I think that some of them are beginning to regret choices they might have made. They're starting to recognize that they may have been used or played. Others are still unaware of the depths of duplicity with which they have been treated. I also want to talk a bit about the gods and goddesses that we worship in paganism. Who are they? Are they real? If so, how do they exist? And in our review, we'll be looking at the classic Aradia, or the Gospel of the Witches. I want to let you know, too, this is what I was hinting at before, that I did get a website up now. You can visit it at www.paganfm.com. And while there's a player that you can hear the show right on the website. You can find all of my show notes and more, or at least a good number of them. I don't have them all up there yet for the past episodes, but as new episodes go up, you will find them there. Over time, I'll be adding links to artists' websites, so if you hear music, you'll know where to get it if it's available. I'll be creating a Pagan FM Book of Shadows, a Pagan FM Book of Days, links to my book, The Pagan in Recovery, and more. And for those of you who find this program and what I have to offer helpful, and if you want to help out, I'll be posting a link where you can contribute to that effort if you like. It does take some resources to put the program together: recording equipment, hosting, computers, all that kind of stuff. So if you feel you might like to help out, I'll be making that option available. And if you want, you can be thanked on air or on the website. That doesn't mean that I'm expecting anyone to do so. The program will always be here for you to listen, and the material on the website will always be there for you, no matter what. So that will just be an option. Right now, we'll look at the weather. I am so happy. So once again, Philly, South Jersey. Today we finally got over 50 degrees for a change, and tonight it will reach a low of about 50 degrees with showers likely. Sunday, tomorrow, we can expect a high of 68 degrees, likely with showers, dropping to about 42 on Sunday night. That should pretty much clear up whatever snow has remained on the ground. Finally, on Monday, it looks like it'll reach 68 degrees and sunny skies, so I'll be back on my bike again to get to and from work. Monday night, we'll see a low of around 45 with partly cloudy skies, and on Tuesday and Wednesday both, we'll see a high of around 74 degrees. Sunny on Tuesday, mostly cloudy on Wednesday, lows in the 50s at night. On Wednesday night, we can expect a chance of showers later on. And speaking of bicycling weather, if you're considering getting fit, check out the Pagan FM fitness group over on Strava, completely free. I'm just trying to get a group of us together for mutual support in our fitness journeys. I'll be trying to get a link to that also on the Pagan FM website. Again, one thing at a time. It takes time. There's only one of me. I wish there were more, but I do what I can. Anyway, let's hear a little more music, and then I'll be back with our Understanding Paganism segment.
Stand the ruins of the Church of the Trinity, long, long time passing. And by the ruins of the Church of the Trinity, there stood for many centuries a proud and dark witch's tree from a long, long time ago. As folklore tells, it has been said, south of the village a woman lived, healing in her hands and knowledge to give, long, long time passing. And she'd go to where the great oak stood, down into the timeless wood, to gather herbs when the moon was full, a long, long time ago. Summer's day, ring a rosy came to play. Evil is upon us, she heard me say, long, long time passing. The healer woman they sought to blame, so to her cottage in anger came, to burn the witch with a holy flame, a long, long time ago. In their madness they will blame her, violate and shame her. So to the church on sacred ground in desperation she did flee. But the holy man would not hear her, and barred the great doors to her, and with the evil of the Roman Church denied her sanctuary. high. In fury they screamed, the witch must die. Her life to take in vain they tried. Long, long time passing. For supreme magic she did conjure from Mother Earth to make her stronger. A tree she formed forever longer, a long, long time ago. In the year of 1983,
Welcome to our Understanding Paganism segment. So tonight I want to talk about who are the gods and goddesses. As pagans, most of us will not consider ourselves monotheists. Some will, but most, though, will worship at least a goddess and a god, or multiple gods and goddesses. It's possible to be a Christo-pagan with a sort of trinity, and I've seen a couple varieties of this arrangement. I've seen some actually worship the Trinity. I've seen some worship the Father, the Son, and the Mother, as in Jesus and the Father and Mary. So I've seen a few different arrangements of Christo-paganism, but in general, there are many, many views regarding who and what the gods are. This could extend beyond paganism too, into Hinduism, into syncretic religions. But for my purpose tonight, I'm considering paganism or neo-paganism pretty much only. Years ago, at a Pagan Pride Day in Concord, New Hampshire, I addressed part of this question. Prior to the group meeting, I spoke to two individuals who knew a third individual in common. And I asked those two individuals to describe this third person only in terms of their relationship to them, omitting physical characteristics. After the entire group had convened, the two were each asked to describe this person, and those in the group were tasked with determining whether the two individuals were speaking about the same person or about different individuals. They couldn't. The point of the exercise was to illustrate that in any relationship, that relationship is described in part by who we are, as much as it is by who the other individual is. The same holds true for the gods as well as other humans, perhaps even more so, because meeting actual gods in the flesh is a rare occurrence at best. And those who have been said to have met humans haven't always been known for their consistency in appearance. Throughout history, we have defined our gods through our needs. When we have need of a god, what we need in a god is who we get. When we need a tender god, we receive likewise. It is the same when we need a provider, when we need a god to help with hunting, with love, with childbirth, with the weather, sea travel, fishing, whatever our immediate need might be. This is the God we come to expect. This is the God who arrives. And this is the God who's written about or spoken about, or of whom we share stories to our children and our neighbors. And it's they who live on in our mythology. It's those who meet our needs. Those are the ones to whom we call out. It's they who we find working in our lives. The question that comes naturally about then is this: are these gods real? Is any god real? The realist, the atheist, the rationalist would say that the gods are not real. They're examples of magical thinking. We invent them to explain coincidence. We invent them to have someone or something to call out to in times of need or distress. We invent them because we need hope when we're hopeless. And the gods are a convenient mechanism when all we have left is a voice crying help. The rationalist will further claim that those times when we do cry out and seemingly receive an answer, when in our distress we reach out and it seems that our voice has been heard and the problem solved, this is nothing more than coincidence. The problem for the rationalist, though, is that over time, coincidence upon coincidence begins to look like something more. When the amount of coincidence begins to exceed what can be reasonably expected, either statistically or logically, we need to begin to look for some sort of other explanation beyond pure random chance. Any single event, even multiple events, can, of course, be attributed to chance. But there may well come a time when we experience, when what we experience stretches the limits of statistical probability or likelihood. To purposefully misquote Albert Einstein, when he was speaking of quantum entanglement, he used the phrase spooky action at a distance to describe what appeared to be faster than light communication between entangled particles. It defied his understanding that nothing could travel faster than light, but the idea that two particles could seemingly communicate over vast distances instantaneously necessarily breaks that speed of light limit. Well, if something is actually happening with us who have some sort of faith in the gods and goddesses, that's our spooky action. It perhaps can't be understood with natural laws of physics. We can't necessarily explain it in naturalistic or quantum mechanical or mathematical terms, but if something is happening and it works for us, then it can't simply be dismissed because it's inconvenient or because it doesn't fit into the paradigm of a skeptic. As for me, I've come to work with a number of deities, and they manage to bring me comfort when I need comfort. I've had personal struggles, and I've found resolution more often than not. And I've had my share of strange experiences. Some might be considered psychic, metaphysical, and even the recovery of lost items. Some of these experiences were astonishing to people who witnessed them. In my life, things that I can't explain by saying it was just coincidence have happened too many times to simply ignore. And so I live my life with the understanding that these things are real. These are the things that I believe. And like me, there are many others who believe. And we come to share a belief that there are actually beings who take an interest in our lives. These beings represent the forces of nature, the earth, the principles by which our universe operates. And over time, we have come to recognize among various groups of people some commonalities between those whom we call out to. And as we've done so, we gave some of these forces or beings names by which we might call them. These are our gods. It makes sense that some of these gods will have the same purpose, but will have different names in different cultures. For example, Hermes and Mercury. The former is Greek, the latter Roman, but both are messenger gods. Artemis and Diana, again, Greek and Roman goddesses of the hunt. And there is the Celtic goddess of the hunt, Abnoba, from the Black Forest region. We have had gods and goddesses representing many qualities and needs throughout the history of human civilization. So we come as individual peoples to group our deities into pantheons that reflect our common needs and beliefs. Thus we have the various Celtic pantheons, the Roman, the Greek, the Kemetic, the Norse, and so many other regional pantheons. Each of these represents the needs and the traditions and the customs and the personalities of groups of people. The early Roman Christian Church used these similarities to assimilate pagan nations that they sought to conquer. Recognizing similarities of pagan deities to Christian saints, or inventing Christian saints to take the place of pagan deities, they would convince people that they could become Christian without giving up their beliefs. Saint Bridget, taking the place of the goddess Bridget, is one clear such example. And then later the church would come in with stricter rules forbidding the worship of saints, permitting prayer to, but not worship of, these saints. But this brings up, again, that same point. Are the gods real? And if the gods are real, in what sense are they real? Have they always existed? Are they merely personifications of nature? Are they egregores created by our belief in them? Did they die, perhaps, for a time when the church managed to extinguish worship of them? I recall an episode of Star Trek called Who Mourns for Adonis? I believe it was season 2. Approaching a planet, the Enterprise is grasped by a hand, and some of the crew finds a being who is literally Adonis on a planet below. Coming from a race of beings who were once worshipped as gods, these beings were sustained by that worship. It gave them sustenance. In the end, Adonis recognized that humans no longer had need of gods, and he faded away to join the others who went on before him. Rationalism might suggest that we have no need for gods. We understand our weather, we understand astronomy and physics and chemistry. But we also recognize that there's a good deal that we don't yet know. I work in a calibration laboratory every day, or except for weekends mostly. I deal with numbers. I've worked as an engineer designing test equipment to test and calibrate accelerometers and other types of equipment. I understand science and engineering. I understand things like measurement uncertainty. When I report something in the laboratory I work in, I report not only a measured value, but the reliability of that value, the amount of uncertainty associated with it. I look at things like Ian Stevenson's book, 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation, and I recognize there's something that suggests that there is more than this simple materialistic world. I look at the experiences that I've had that don't have simple materialistic explanations. What I do know is that when I've reached out, there's been someone there, apparently to hear me, to answer. I can't say that when I call on Caradwyn, for instance, that it's the same woman as in Christopher Williams' 1910 painting of her, though this is a beautiful image. But there's someone who hears. And at times, I hear a response, and my life changes direction in response. And that's what I need to know. Let's hear some more music.
What an adventure we've had, my friend. But even fairy balls must have an end. As you recount the dances in your head, I'll tuck you safely in your bed. I must fly, though I won't be far. Just wish on mushroom, stone or star. Fairies roam, but never leave. If in your heart you believe in yourself and in your dreams, believe in fairy balls and fairy queens. When you believe, my darling girl, you bring fairy magic back to your world. When you wake up, though it may seem that fairyland was just a dream, remember petal gowns and crystal streams and the great hall of the fairy queen. When doubters say we don't exist, tell them by pixies you've been kissed. Trust no others cannot perceive. Blessings abound when you believe in yourself and in your dreams. Believe in fairy balls and fairy queens. When you believe, My darling girl, you bring fairy magic back to your world. Dear child, don't grow too fast. Make childhood moments last and last. Treasure each flower, cherish each day. Remember to laugh your cares away. Keep your wonder and wild heart, and from the fairies you'll never part. Fairyland you will always see, if in life's magic you believe, and in yourself and in your dreams. Believe in fairy balls and fairy queens. When you believe, my darling girl, you bring fairy magic back to your world. Fairy magic back to your world. You bring fairy magic back to your world.
Where will you go behind the rain? Where will you be between wax and wane? Behind the storm, hidden and closed, closed in the world that nobody knows. Frost and fall, star and night, owl and eye between moon and light. North and bare, ice and snow, still in the world that nobody knows. Or go to the place where the lightning sits, where dragons fire and serpents hiss. I'll go to the place where the lightning sits, where the thunder growls and rain clouds mist. Where will you go, cross and road? Where will you be between the world, behind the storm, hidden and closed, deep in the world that nobody knows? Sword and edge, witch and craft, river and song, between spell and cast, tree and bough, rook and crow, high in the world that nobody knows. I'll go to the place where the lightning sits, where dragons fire and griffins hiss. I'll go to the place where the lightning sits, where the thunder growls and rain clouds drift. Where will you go, lock and seed? Where will you be between willow and tree? Behind the rain, hidden and closed, fierce in the world that nobody knows. Hoof and horn, grass and moor, gate and way, between vale and door. Salt and sea, henge and stone, hidden in the world that nobody knows. Go to the place where the lightning sits, where the thunder growls and rain clouds hiss. I'll go to the place where the lightning sits, where griffins fire and dragons wish.
I'll go to the place where the lightning sits, where dragons growl. I'll go to the place where the lightning sits. Go to the place where the lightning sits. Go to the place where the lightning sits. Go to the place where the lightning sits.
All right, so that was Jenna Green with Believe from her album Crossroads, and then we heard Magic Folk with Behind the Rain, which was the title track from their EP Behind the Rain. So now, in our Practical Pagan segment, my dear friends, this message may well be the closest thing to a sermon that I've ever given, but I give it in a spirit, I guess, of urgency, because I see America, specifically the United States of America, at a crossroads. And I believe that we, as pagans, might be in a unique position to render some assistance. You see, the American people, and American Christians in particular, believe that they are under attack. Some have dismissed this idea as a fantasy because they are, in fact, in point of fact, the majority religion in America. But I submit that they are, in fact, very much under attack. Not, however, from without, but from within. The attack is not an attack against Christianity from non-Christians, but instead an attack from within Christianity for the soul of Christianity. It is an attack that seeks to control Christianity, and through that, it seeks to control this nation. This attack began decades ago, and its execution has been patient and unwavering. Because it is rampant in conservative Christianity, the only answer to it can come from outside of conservative Christianity. Those who are under attack are not able to see it because they do not see the actual attack. They're focused on a non-existent attack. They cannot see those who claim to be their own as actual attackers. They can't imagine the actual attack coming from those who claim, like themselves, to be Christians. They view the ideological differences between them and their attackers as minors and believe that the only essentials are a shared belief in Christ and in the authority of Scripture. One of the greatest lies that conservative Christians base their philosophical arguments on is the idea that the United States was founded on the Christian religion. This is patently false for multiple reasons, with the first being that there is no single Christian religion. If there were, it would be possible to point to at least one person or professing Christian whom all Christians could agree was a good standard bearer for what it meant to be a Christian. Such a person outside of Scripture does not exist, nor does there exist among Christian denominations any definition of Christianity such that at least one Christian denomination is not excluded as heretical. In short, there is no unanimity among Christians as to what Christianity actually means. The second is this. We're told that the founding fathers came to this continent to seek freedom of religion. This is in part true, but only in part. It is true for Puritans, Anabaptists, Quakers, Shakers, and some others, but most who came here were actually seeking something else. They came here in search of wealth. For those who came here seeking religious tolerance, it bears note that these people were fringe sects, being pushed out by the state-sanctioned religion. The irony is that it is now the descendants of many such people who now wish to establish a state religion themselves. This should not go unnoticed. When these religions did become established on this continent, what happened? Those who came seeking tolerance came in search of a place where they could worship in freedom But was that freedom extended to others? For some of these religions, the answer was decidedly no. Quakers were persecuted in New England, and the Salem witch trials are a notorious part of American history. Indeed, throughout the history of the United States, religious tension has been a constant thread. Struggles between Catholics and Protestants have been constant, leading to what were called the Bible riots in 1844 in Philadelphia, in which homes were destroyed, churches were burned, and more than 20 people lost their lives. And what was this about? It was about which Bible should be used in schools, not whether the Bible belonged in schools, but which one. The argument that Christians came here for religious liberty is fallacious and incomplete. They came here, some of them, to practice their religion and freedom, but not necessarily to extend that same freedom or liberty to those of other faiths. They came here seeking wealth and adventure as well. Some came to evangelize the natives. But the number who might have come to establish a land where any faith could be practiced with equal liberty was small. And those who might have sought such an outcome were not among the Puritans or any of the more conservative religious groups. Throughout American history, there has been tension between Christianity and the idea of religious freedom. To be brutally honest, Christianity has been at odds with the existence of any other religion since Christianity was able to come into any sort of political power. But in the United States, the idea of religious liberty has been a nebulous thing. Today, seeming more to mean a freedom for a certain Christian denomination to be free from criticism. This problem is compounded when multiple branches of Christianity are in conflict over who or which has a right to control such things as interpretation of Scripture, the contents of the canon of the Bible, or what in fact it means to be a Christian. An example among Christians is there is little agreement as to whether such groups as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, or the Jehovah's Witnesses are actually Christian churches at all. The problem with modern-day American conservative Christians, and specifically those within the MAGA movement, is a lack of education, specifically an education regarding Christianity and a lack of inquisitiveness that extends beyond what they're told by preachers, politicians, and pundits. They believe themselves to be American Christian patriots. They believe in God, guns, and the Bible, and the flag. But most of them have never read the Constitution or the Bible, let alone have they come to understand either. Nor have they studied U.S. history, church history, civics, Western civilization, or the writings of our founding fathers, or anything else that led to what it is that they think made this country great. To them, great and MAGA are slogans like soft and absorbent are in toilet tissue. It feels good, but beyond that, there's no meaning. It's a marketing ploy that makes them feel good about themselves, and it keeps them from thinking that the decisions they're making at the voting booth are consequential and important, requiring thoughtful investigation into the claims made by all parties. They believe they understand their religion, and many can recite Bible verses to back up certain points. We call this proof texting. But the ability to do this is not the same thing as a deep understanding of Scripture or historical Christianity. Real understanding in a religious context requires thoughtful consideration of what one says one believes. And when it's mixed with politics, it becomes even more consequential because at that point, what should be personal religious mandates begin to affect all of society. I must admit that I am no scholar. I hold no academic degrees. My understanding of Christianity comes from Catholic schools, cult indoctrination, the subsequent deconstruction of those experiences, and my own study. As far as autodidacts go, I think I do a fair job in my own self-directed study. and it's my hope that anyone who finds legitimate error with the things I say or write will point them out, because it's not my wish to either live or promulgate error. I suppose, though, that this is the difference between sincerity in seeking truth and with dogma. With dogma, one believes they're in possession of unalterable truth, while those who sincerely seek truth are open to new knowledge and understanding. It's my hope that those in the MAGA cult will someday discover the exit door and make amends for the harm they've done and rejoin society. And the reason for the talk today is to help those of us who encounter people in the MAGA cult or in the larger Christian nationalist movement to be better equipped to respond to their arguments and to effectively deconstruct their premises. It took a great deal for me to come to terms with the idea of hell, to get over the guilt of simply being myself. But that's what conservative Christianity needs to function. It's a fear-based religion. On the one hand, God loves you, and on the other, God will torture you for eternity for the crime of not knowing him. It doesn't make much sense if you're not part of the cult. What MAGA loyalists and Christian nationalists believe is that Christianity has been under some sort of attack from liberalism in the United States, and apparently God is somehow not powerful enough to withstand it. They believe that because we don't have school prayer, because not everyone says Merry Christmas, and because the 10 Commandments aren't permitted everywhere, that Christianity itself is under some sort of existential threat. They believe that freedom of religion gives them the right to have their displays whenever and wherever they please, but they bristle when presented with pagan, Muslim, satanic, or any other non-Christian displays. What they want isn't religious freedom or tolerance. What they want is Christian dominionism. They simply want their dominionism called freedom. But there's a side of this picture which they fail to see. While those behind the Christian nationalist movement have built a coalition to bring about the MAGA phenomenon, this is not the terminus. It isn't the ultimate goal. We can glimpse bits of that goal in the attempts to erode civil rights through numerous legislative and executive efforts, such as bans against transgender people, attempts to repeal same-sex marriage, attempts to install Christian guidance counselors in schools, to roll back no-fault divorce, and in the so-called SAVE Act, which would in practice disenfranchise many current voting women. The architects of this movement want two things from their followers: compliance and fear. They want their followers compliant with the church and their designated leaders, and fearful of anyone who isn't part of their movement. This means they want their followers compliant with approved political candidates and those who have successfully won elections, that is, approved conservative candidates and lawmakers. And they want their followers afraid of and standing in opposition to anyone standing in their way, meaning mostly liberals and Democrats. They also want their followers afraid of immigrants, non-Christians, and anyone who will make them question their loyalties to their cause or their faith. Followers are expected to vote unquestioningly for approved candidates. They will believe that these are informed choices. They will believe that liberal candidates are inherently evil and flawed, out to infect children with warped ideologies and twisted, perverse morals. We've seen Donald Trump make such ridiculous claims that a child might go to school and over the course of a single day transition from one sex to another with no parental knowledge, involvement, or interaction. Every day, MAGA leadership is making more and more outrageous and ridiculous claims, with more and more of them being proved false at best and often outright lies. We've seen ICE killing civilians, not only by outright shooting them, but through utter callous neglect, such as dropping off a functionally blind person near a Tim Hortons in Buffalo, New York, without notifying anyone after learning that he was ineligible for deportation. Rather than providing a blind man with transportation to his home, they dropped him off at a restaurant, didn't notify his family, and left him to his own devices. While Trump and his administration have done these things, it's the MAGA voter, the MAGA cult member, that ultimately bears responsibility for voting for this, for enabling it in the first place. So what can we do? As much as I would like to separate myself from anyone who supports Trump and the MAGA movement, I think that when and where I can, and when I believe that I have a chance of reaching them, I need to try. As a cult survivor, I can tell you that there is no single recipe for reaching anyone or everyone who is in a cult. And yes, I do consider MAGA and the dominionist nationalist Christianity that has infected this country cults. What can help is to help these individuals see how they have been cheated by their leaders, how they have been lied to and manipulated, how they have not only harmed others, how they have harmed themselves, how they've been harmed. It won't work to go up to them and say, Trump's a liar. They won't care. They won't hear you. Cults have techniques to prevent that from even entering their brains. But when you can point out how they've been tangibly harmed and personally treated badly by the leader of a cult, that's a different story. It's not always easy to find these things and get them into their brains, but it can be done. Farmers, especially right now, are taking a huge hit. One big point is the obvious lie that Trump told his followers that he was the right president for those who wanted no new wars. Look at what we've got. He said that prices would start falling on day one. Are they? Absolutely nothing of what he predicted has come to fruition. Indeed, it's much the opposite. What matters is that the rhetoric does not match the deeds. The problem is that Trump is a master of spin. Still, given his failures, for his spin to be effective today, even the best of ice skaters will be dizzy trying to keep up. As pagans, we are facing an increasingly hostile government. And if we sit back and ignore the Christian nationalism and the Trump MAGA movement, we're going to suffer. Already, our friends in the military are facing struggles under Hegseth's leadership, with his increasing focus on Christianity as the de facto religion. It's up to us to do what we can to support our pagan troops, however we can, but we also have our own battle here at home, trying to defeat these attempts at forming a Christian nation. If we want to continue practicing our own way of life, we need to ensure that freedom of religion means just that, and not simply freedom for certain Christians to not be offended. In year one, Trump's done a great deal of damage. There are nearly 3 to go, presuming he lasts that long. And it's difficult to predict what will happen when he's gone. But whatever it is, we need to ensure that we aren't sitting on the sidelines. We need to do ritual. We need to be active. We need to get the word out. If we can't march, we can make signs. If we can't do that, we can speak out. We can be active on social media. And above all, we need to vote. No matter how Trump and MAGA try to hinder our ability to vote, we need to do whatever we can to hold on to that right to vote. And if for some reason they manage to take it away, we need to make as big a stink as we can. If there's a Boudica moment, a Morrigan moment, a Lou or a Dagda moment, this is our time to call on them. Because our nation is at war, and we're at war for the soul of our nation. Not all wars are fought with guns and bombs and tanks and missiles. Some of them are fought with words and placards and by standing arm in arm in the face of our oppressors. Some of them are fought even as we cry for peace.
Once a very long, long time ago, but beyond the time of kings, lived a dragon who became a beast and grew too heavy for its wings. He threatened fire and death to all. He threatened many things. So the townfolk brought from all around all the wealth that they could bring. But some of them were curious and they said, what is it for? And when they brought him all they had, his answer was to bring more. And by the way, I'll need your sons and daughters for the coming war. Somebody said, hey now, hey now, one on a little piece now. Hey now, hey right now, one on a little piece now. Peace now, right now, one on a little piece now. Came a woman from the closest town to the cave in which he lived, and at the entrance laid her body down, saying, I shall not be moved. And she said, I'll not cooperate. I will feed your cause no more. No matter what you do to me, I'll not feed your filthy war. And he snorted, and he snarled, and he bared his teeth with rage. And with his massive talons, well, he crushed her like an egg. And he roared at their defiant stance, and he shouted at them, more I said, more I said. Another took her place in line, saying, you can do the same to me, but no more will we comply. And another joined, till 100,000 stood behind. There were so many people saying no, you couldn't hurt them if you tried. Saw determination, and he saw that it was true, that with the whole world watching there was nothing he could do. So he snuck back to his cave a while to wait for maybe me or you. And he's still there waiting for our silence or our agreement, for a time when he doesn't hear, hey now, hey now, one on a little piece now. Hey now, hey now, we'll keep a little peace now. Peace now, right now, how about a little peace now? Hey now, we need a little peace now. Hey now, hey right now, why not a little peace now? Peace now, right now, we need a little peace now.
Mr. Pinocchio man, I heard you once had a killer plan for the land of the free and the home of the brave. I heard you had some family ties, I heard you set up some alibis, and that fellow Geppetto carved a new nose on your face long time ago, when there were strings on our kings, black, gold, and diamond rings, when there were strings tangled in till a brave bird cut them. Then it was ashes to ashes when they finally fell down, and in the rubble a country was found. Oh, hey there, Mr. Puppet Boy, I heard you used to play with toys. Set the soldiers up, knock the soldiers down. I heard the people were your employer, but you took your strength in God and oil. Bravado's the band-aid that comforts the clown long time ago, when there were strings on our kings, black, gold, and diamond rings, when there were strings tangled in till a brave bird cut them. Then it was ashes to ashes when they finally fell down, and in the rubble a nation was found, root bound. Oh, 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 how I looked forward to be looking back. God bless the soldiers, Goddess bless all souls under attack, and wash away the shame, though it was not in my name, and wash away the shame from a long time ago, when there were strings on our kings, black, gold, and diamond rings, when there were strings tangled in till a brave bird cut them. Then it was ashes to ashes when they finally fell down. This country was built on the sound of freedom. Got too hot for a boy of wood who got confused about where he stood on the land of the free and the home of the brave. Oh, say, can you see?
Okay, so that was Gaia Consort with Peace Now from their album Evolve, and then we heard Celia Ferran with Strings on Our Kings from her album Red, Alabaster, and Blue. And now in our review, we're looking tonight at Aradia, or The Gospel of the Witches by Charles Godfrey Leland. Leland was a humorist and a folklorist who was born not too far from here in Philadelphia and educated at Princeton University here in New Jersey and in Europe. As a folklorist, Leland took an interest in the stories of Italian witchcraft, and Aradia, or The Gospel of the Witches, is a compilation of sacred writings from a group of witches living in Tuscany, Italy, ostensibly. These writings suggest that pagan witches existed in Tuscany at least into the 19th century. This book came to be influential in the liturgy of 20th century Wicca, and at least one of the covens that I was a member of had text that was directly copied from Aradia as part of its liturgy. Leland writes that much of this work came to him from an informant named Maddalena, presumably a practicing witch in Tuscany. Much of this is in verse form and in Italian, and Leland provides an English translation immediately following the Italian. The rest of the text is Leland's own research into Italian folklore and traditions, which also includes some work from his informant. Leland reported having first heard of this gospel, or Vangelo, you might notice the similarity to the word evangelist, in 1886, but it apparently took Maddalena 11 years to provide him with a copy of this document. After editing and translating, it wasn't until 1899 that the book was published. Though short, barely, I think it's 107 pages, it contains 15 chapters on such diverse topics as rituals, spells, and beliefs. The tone of the work definitely suggests animosity toward the Catholic Church, whom the original writers saw as oppressors. While the work was originally obscure, interest in the work grew in the 1950s when interest in pagan witchcraft and soon afterwards in Wicca became popular. Scholars are divided as to the authenticity of the Vangelo, with some doubting that any legitimate witchcraft cult actually existed in Italy into the 19th century. While there were certainly some pagan groups extant in Northern Europe, at least into the 18th and 19th centuries, some find it more difficult to accept the survival of a witch cult in Italy for that long. Personally, I don't know enough to have an actual opinion on the topic. What I will say is that Italian witchcraft in the form depicted in Aradia is really not for me, so here's why. While most of my training was in Wicca, I came to understand that the read, "and it harm none, do what thou wilt," was an admonition to do what one could to bring about no harm that wasn't absolutely necessary. We all need to do some harm sometimes. For example, to eat. Plants or animals will die for humans to live. Everything is a trade-off. And the way I read, the harm none phrase also includes the self. So when I'm considering some action, I need to consider not only whether I'm harming another, but whether I'm bringing harm to myself in that deed. Basically, harm is something to be considered on a deep level. In Leland's Aradia, the harm clause takes a different form. In Italian witchcraft, it comes down to harm not the innocent. The text has a tone to it that I find at times a little disturbing, and apparently I'm not alone. Matt Oren wrote in an article in 2019 at Pathos called The Aradia Problem, in which he takes on the elements that can seem anti-Semitic and Luciferian. Matt suggests that some of the problems with the text come from mistranslation, in part due to the poetic nature of the work. I can look at what he wrote, and I can come away feeling a little bit better about Aradia, but I still don't think it's for me. But that's the deal with paganism as a whole. There are many traditions because there are many of us, and we all have our different paths and points of view. Matt has a really extensive website that I haven't had a chance to look over in full yet, but it looks like there's a good deal of material there, including his own podcast called The Circle Is Podcast. You can find Matt over at https://oren.net. That's AURYN.net. And I'll do the real quick Pagan FM Almanac because it's a short one this week. So we had a full moon just a couple of days ago, and the last quarter moon will be on Wednesday, March 11th, and the sun is still in Pisces. It will remain so until March 21st. I'm still working on our Pagan FM Book of Days, and I don't have a ton of that filled in for March yet, but it's getting there. and you'll see more as I as I compile things going forward. So right now we'll hear some more music, and then we'll get into our herb of the week.
Silver moonlight dances from the mists of Teggett shore. A lady looks upon her son like many times before, and she touches his face, fingers wet with the tears falling. Her daughter stands beside her, the fairest in the land. How her son became so cursed she cannot understand. But this mother's love is as strong as her heart is beating, and she calls to the earth, and the earth hears her calling. Dina Saffron stands tall. All magic and all mysteries are held within these walls. So she walks to the door. As she does, the door it opens. Teach to me the mystery of the cauldron's brew. Let utter darkness give way to light and be reborn anew. Then the Arwen will shine from the brow of the eagle of the sea, and all will know his name from this land to the people of the sheep. Set the cauldron's fire, tended by the hand of Gwion Bark the innocent, and Morda the blind man, who reached out his hand. Place more wood, keep the cauldron boiling. Then Morda, he fell asleep, alas he didn't see. Wood upon wood was added, the inferno was the key to unlock the door of the Arwen's greatest mystery. 3 drops burning skin, and it's Gwion who gained the power to see. The cauldron cracks, the poison creeps slowly across the land, to kill the horses of Garanir at the lake shore where they stand, drinking and not knowing their fate, as a hare runs fast across the land. Ceridwen, Ceridwen, lady of the cauldron, come see what they have done. Stolen your cauldron's power and betrayed your only son. Your eyes wide, lips curl, anger on your face. Change your shape now, lady. Be the hound. Begin the chase. Begin the chase. Begin the chase. I shall be a running hare with sorrow and with mickle care.
Then I shall be a greyhound bitch and tear you from your skin.
Then I shall be a flying wren, the king of birds, the king of men.
So I shall be a falcon grey and tear you from your skin.
Then I shall be a salmon sleek, darting through a shallow creek.
So I shall be an otter bitch and wrest you from your skin.
I shall be a grain beneath the sun, and you will never know which one.
Then I shall be a great black hen and take you deep within.
Think my tale is over and done, but 9 moons later she gave birth to a son that she wanted to kill, but she placed in a coracle on the sea. Garanir salmon weir, a catch was guaranteed, but on this day a baby boy cried out to be freed. A radiant brow, shining bright for all to plainly see. Taliesin is your name, the greatest bard that this land will ever see.
right, so we just heard Dave the Bard with, let's see, that was Caradwyn and Taliesin from his album Antlered Crown and Standing Stone. Then we heard Shining Wheel Pagan Chorus with No More Burning Times from their album Elemental Children of Earth. And then, I guess picking up on the theme, Tellergy with Accusations from the Legend of Goody Cole. So Goody Cole was a witch in Hampton, New Hampshire, or a woman accused of witchcraft in Hampton, New Hampshire during the time of the witchcraft trials in the 1600s back in New England. And she was eventually exonerated. So kind of a theme going on there. And looking at our herb of the week, this week I wanted to take a look, since it's going to be coming out here soon, we're going to start seeing more of this, but I wanted to take a look at the dandelion. So first things first, let's look at the name dandelion. It comes to us from the French, Dandelion, which literally means lion's tooth, suggested by the toothed shape of the plant's leaves. If there's one herb that I think is given short shrift, it is the dandelion. People spend tons of money and time trying to rid their lawns of this humble herb, and it's one of the most beneficial common herbs around. Not only are the seeds things of pleasant childhood memories, who doesn't remember picking a dandelion that's gone to seed to blow on the seeds and see them fly away, but this humble plant offers food, dyes, and medicinal value all in one little package. It's rich in antioxidants. It helps with blood sugar, cholesterol, blood pressure, the liver, the skin, and so much more. I'm writing about it this early this year because I remember my grandmother cooking dandelion leaves in the early spring. The leaves in the spring aren't nearly as bitter as the more mature leaves and go well with like butter and mashed potatoes. Nutritionally, dandelion provides vitamins A, C, E, K, and B. It provides potassium, calcium, and magnesium for minerals. For blood pressure, dandelion's a diuretic, but better than that, it's also a potassium-sparing diuretic, which many other diuretics are not. Probably not great if you've got kidney disease, but still. The flowers can be used to make dandelion wine. A tea can be made from the roots, leaves, or flowers. The flowers and the leaves have been used for dyes. This plant is also being investigated for anti-cancer effects, and it might support digestive health. In short, it's a little plant that's considered a nuisance, but really shouldn't be. Spiritually, this little guy teaches us a great deal about resilience. It can thrive anywhere, and despite our best efforts to eradicate it, it keeps coming back. I suppose it really knows that we actually need it. What can we learn from this little plant? We learn that power of persistence. We learn to go our own way, to forge our own trails, to not be forced into boxes, and to find our own inner strength, often discovering that we're capable of so much more than we might first appear to be.
The face of truth is open. The eyes of truth are bright. The lips of truth are ever closed. The head of truth upright. The breast of truth stands forward. The gaze of truth is straight. Truth has neither fear nor doubt. Truth has patience to wait. The words of truth are touching. The voice of truth is deep. The law
but its shadow. Truth stands above all the sea. Great be the battle in life. Truth in the end shall win. The image of truth is Christ. Wisdom's message is wrong. Sign of the truth is the cross. Soul of truth is God. Truth is God. Truth is eternal, immortal is its past. Power of truth will endure, truth shall hold. To the last.
All right, so that was Truth by Who Dosed from their album In an Eastern Rose Garden. And while they aren't a pagan band, they're actually a Sufi band. I first heard of them when I was interviewing the Sufi Imam Salim Chishti back on the early days of Pagan FM at WSCA in Portsmouth. And I've really liked their music, and they've agreed to continue to let me play it, and that's just one of the pieces that I like. So it's time for our Oppression Watch, and tonight, what can I say? Kristi Noem is now out as Secretary of Homeland Security, and Markwayne Mullin has been nominated to replace her. After spending over $200,000 of taxpayer money, was it 200,000 or 200 million? Oh, I don't know. It's just more money than I'll ever have on advertisements where she dressed up in various costumes: cowgirl, nurse, firefighter, ICE agent, and so many others. And then claiming that those advertising campaigns were approved by President Trump and caught in an obvious lie in front of Congress. She has been reassigned to a job where she will hopefully do less damage. On the other hand, Markwayne Mullin is not necessarily a better choice for the job. In other news, I'm sure that it's not escaped anybody's notice that we are at war. Trump has decided to call it, Putin style, a special military operation because war was not approved by Congress. He has arguably made the entire world less safe. When the administration, Trump and the Secretary of Defense, Congress needs to rename the position, despite Trump and Hegseth calling his position the Secretary of War. That is not the official name of the position, but when asked about munitions, both have declared that we have unlimited weapons. That is simply false. Nothing is unlimited. It takes money to make munitions, and unlimited munitions implies unlimited funding. We don't have unlimited funding. It's simply not true. Using interceptor missiles, as reported by Kelly Greco, he pointed out that against Iran's missiles, and depending on their rate of fire, it could deplete our stockpiles in about a month. And everything we deploy in Iran is something that is not available elsewhere in the world. We as a population can see the gaslighting going on from the Trump administration. The reason we went to war keeps shifting. The goals of the war keep shifting. The timeline keeps shifting. It's as if Trump himself didn't know why we went there and just decided one morning, since I'm not getting a Nobel Peace Prize, I guess I'll go to war. I've got nothing better to do, and when asked if we might see casualties on American soil, Trump was nonchalant about the possibility. It didn't seem to bother him at all. It seemed the cost of doing business, which kind of goes to show that American lives, indeed any lives, are somewhat meaningless to him. It hurts. It hurts to be here right now. It hurts to see what's going on. And hopefully there will soon be an end to it.
She's been with me from my childhood, always there. Felt the storm rise, learned the weather, and I read the air. I always talked to her and she took away my pain. She will never be the The sun is blazing, my children playing, making circles in the sand. I feel her waters, she is crying for the darkness in my head.
Poison in our lifeblood,
It's just not right.
filled with tears of anger.
Baby, don't cry.
Darkness is coming.
So you stand and fight until the light completely dies. She gives us
this morning, went to see her, but she had changed. Now I'm sorry, I took for granted that she would always be the same. We saw her innocent for it, pocket full of change. She will never be the same. She will never be the same.
All right, so that was Shining Wheel Pagan Chorus with She Gives Us Life from their album Elemental Children of Earth. And coming up next week, we'll be having our Astara ritual. So not a huge amount to say here. I think that will be the focus of the show. And as I mentioned earlier, I will probably do a self-dedication, some sort of vows as part of that ritual. When the show goes up, I'll be sure to have all of the material on the website so that if you would like to use any of it for your own Astara ritual, it will be there. And as we close out tonight, I just want to say blessed be. We'll close out to Feather Scale and Hail and Farewell from their album Gypsy Heart. We'll see you next week.
Back to the place we know so well.
declare it's a parting of ways, bidding you